Alhamdulillahi wa kafa. Wassalamun ala ibadihi allazina istafa. Amma ba'd. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. وقال يا وقال يا بني لا تدخلوا من باب واحد وادخلوا من أبواب متفرقة وما أغني عنكم من الله من شيء إن الحكم إلا لله عليه توكلت وعليه فليتوكل المتوكلون سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. So just to summarize what we did last time and where we ended, that the brothers of Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam are having a conversation with their father, Hadrat Yaqub alayhi salam, and they're trying to convince their father that please send our younger brother Binyamin with us, because that is what the ruler, i.e. Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam, has said, that you should bring your younger brother and then we will give you the measure of provision and grain. So the father, Sayyidina Yaqub alayhi salatu wasalam, he is a bit hesitant, but then he doesn't refuse. And eventually, Sayyidina Yaqub alayhi salatu wasalam agrees. But before he gives the permission, he says, and he gives nasiha and counsel to his sons, that you're also my sons. So I will send him with you. But now I want to make Allah a witness over you. I am making Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala witness that you will be watchful over the son. And in this way, Sayyidina Yaqub alayhi salatu, he took a pledge with them that they will protect the son, they will protect the brother, and made Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a witness over that pledge. And then another thing that Sayyidina Yaqub alayhi salatu did was he advised his sons that وَقَالَ يَا بَنِيَّ لَا تَدْخُلُوا مِنْ بَابٍ وَاحِدٍ, that when you enter the city, all of you should not enter from the same gate. Rather, وَادْخُلُوا مِنْ أَبْوَابٍ مُتَفَرِّقَةٍ, rather you should enter from different gates. So there are now 11 brothers. So saying that don't enter all together from one single gate, rather enter from different gates. Now, why did Sayyidina Yaqub alayhi salatu wasalam say this? This needs to be understood. Hazrat Yaqub alayhi salatu wasalam, he knew that his sons were young, were healthy, were intelligent, were beautiful as well, handsome. And if they all enter from the same gate, then people will be looking at them, all eyes will be upon them. And it's possible that someone who has envy or jealousy might cast a gaze of jealousy upon them, might look upon them with that gaze of envy. And in this way, then there might be some harm that can come to his children. So Sayyidina Yaqub alayhi salatu wasalam, he wanted that when his sons, when they enter the city, they should not become the center of attention, that all eyes are turning towards them, lest they receive a gaze of envy or jealousy from someone. So this was a outer precaution worldly precaution that he took, and the spiritual precaution was wa alayhi, that alayhi tawakkaltu, that I place you in the trust of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we should trust Allah ta'ala alone and no one else. Sayyidina Yaqub al-Islam, he is taking this worldly precaution as well here, telling his children that do not enter the city all at once from the same gate. Now, here we need to understand a particular important concept in Islam, which is the notion of the gaze. Some of you might have heard evil gaze, and people are afflicted by an evil gaze. So, this is a concept which is established in our deen, that the gaze has an effect, and a person can be afflicted with an evil eye, with an evil gaze. And there is a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ explained this and said, Al-ainu haqqun, that to be afflicted by a bad gaze is haqq. It happens. It's established. And in another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said that Inna al-aina la tadkhul al-rajul al-qabara wal jamal al-qidara. That sometimes this gaze, this evil eye, it can lead a person towards their grave. There was one very famous hadith about a Sahabi by the name of Hazrat Sahal radiyallahu ta'ala an. It was very beautiful, very handsome. And once, in order to take a bath, he wrapped a lower garment and uncovered the upper part of his body. And while taking bath, there was another Sahabi, Amir radiyallahu ta'ala an, who saw him, and he was quite amazed that the color, mashallah, is fair complexion, nice physique, nice muscles. So he said to him that, Sahal, I haven't seen such a handsome physique in my life before. And he said those words, and Sahal radiyallahu ta'ala an, he became ill. He became sick. And then eventually the matter reached the Prophet ﷺ as well. One very beautiful quality about the Sahaba Ikram was that whenever any issue would arise, they would always present it before the Prophet ﷺ. So when they came and told the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet ﷺ called Hazrat Amir radiyallahu ta'ala an and said that you were about to kill him. If you liked something about him, why didn't you say Barakallah, that may Allah Ta'ala give you barakah, or why didn't you say mashallah? Then the Prophet ﷺ was teaching us a very important lesson, that when you like something, you like what you see, and then if you make this dua, Barakallah, that may Allah give you barakah and blessings in it, or you say mashallah, then the other person will not be afflicted with the evil eye. And if a person, they don't make this dua, they don't say these phrases, and they're just amazed and they say that you look good or you look handsome or something like that, then it's highly likely that a person will be afflicted with the evil eye. And then after this, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned the remedy as well, and said that Amir radiyallahu ta'ala an should make wudu, and whatever leftover water, other Sahal radiyallahu ta'ala an, the one who was afflicted by the gaze, by the evil eye, he should make ghusl, he should wash himself or take a bath with the leftover water. So the both of the Sahaba Ikram, they did this, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala removed his sickness as well. So from here, this Hadith Mubarakah, we learn two things. That whenever you see something that you like, you look at your own kids sometimes, you should say, MashaAllah, they're doing something nice or cute. You say, MashaAllah, my daughter did this. She memorized one surah of the Quran, MashaAllah. When you're narrating it to other people in your family, say, MashaAllah. MashaAllah, he did this. MashaAllah, she did this. So that they're not afflicted by this gaze. Or you can say, Barakallah. When someone does some favor to you, you say, Barakallah, may Allah give you barakah. So we should have a habit of reciting this dua. Whenever something good happens, or you see something good, or you like something that you see, make a habit of reciting these two phrases, Barakallah and MashaAllah. And the second lesson we learned from this Hadith Mubarakah is that if someone is afflicted by this gaze, then that person should be made to do wudu, and the other person should use that leftover water and take a bath with that. In this way, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can remove the effect of that evil eye. The Mashayikh have mentioned, since this is an important topic and people ask about this a lot as well, there are some further details that the Mashayikh have mentioned about this topic. And they say that if a person feels in their heart that Allah give you Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you a blessing, and you feel in your heart that if I reveal this blessing to others, if I tell about this blessing to other people, then people will start envying me. So in that situation, it's actually better to conceal, not talk about it too a lot, keep a low profile. That's actually better. So when a person feels that if I express the blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me, this will lead to envy and bitterness and resentment, and I can be afflicted with the evil eye. In that situation, it's better to hide the blessing. But in the other case, if a person feels that it's just family members and they would appreciate it, and they will not feel any emotions of resentment or bitterness, then one can express that blessing. And this is the command of Allah Ta'ala in the Quran as well. وَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. That you reveal, you do tazkira, you mention the favor, the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has done upon you. The second point is, in order to save ourselves from the effect of evil eye, it's permissible to make use of worldly means, worldly strategies. So, for example, Abu Jafar radiallahu ta'ala an, he had children who were very weak. They would fall sick very quickly, would have fever. So once his wife, she went to the Prophet ﷺ and asked that my children, they become ill, and what should I do? Can I recite something and I can do dam upon them? Can I recite some ruqya? And the Prophet ﷺ said that yes, that you can recite some ayat of the Quran or some kalimat of the Hadith Mubarakah, and you can then blow over them. The Prophet ﷺ allowed for this activity. One can do this. So this is something which can happen within a household as well. Sometimes the father, he looks upon his children, and that gaze can also that gaze can also, the father's gaze can fall upon his child, and that can be harmful if a person doesn't say mashallah or barakallah. So we should have this habit in our homes as well. Anything that you like, say mashallah. So there are certain du'as that the Prophet ﷺ has taught us, that if someone is, they feel that they are afflicted with an evil eye, so how to get rid of that effect. So one dua which comes in Hadith Mubarakah is A'udhu bi kalimatillahi tammati min sharri ma khalaq. And another dua is A'udhu bi kalimatillahi tammati min kulli shaytanin wa hamatin wa min kulli aynin lamma. These are two masnoon duas. If a person recites, if they have a habit of reciting, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will protect them from the evil gaze. Similarly, another ayat of another surah of the Quran, which is really effective in protecting oneself, are the last two surahs of the Quran, which are known as Mu'awwazatain. Surah Falaq, Qul a'udhu bi rabbil falaq, and Qul a'udhu bi rabbin nas. Our own Mashaykh have also mentioned another set of surahs of the Quran, which can be recited and which can also serve as a protection, as a fortress against such effects. And that is as follows, that a person once in every 24 hours, they can recite, they begin with Durood Sharif, Durood upon the Prophet ﷺ, and then Surah Fatiha, then Ayatul Kursi, and then the four Kul. Kul ya ayyuhal kafirun, Kul huwallahu ahad, Kul a'udhu bi rabbil falaq, and Kul a'udhu bi rabbin nas. And then at the end again recite Durood upon the Prophet ﷺ. So at the beginning and ending, Durood upon the Prophet ﷺ, and in the middle, Surah Fatiha, Ayatul Kursi, and the four Kul. Four surahs which begin with Kul. This is also something that we have also used in our life, and it's very powerful. It's very effective. So one can recite this, and then they can blow upon themselves, blow upon their family members, blow upon their children, blow upon their home, their valuables, and there is a barakah in these surahs of the Quran. They protect a person from any calamity. In fact, some of our mashayikh, they even would blow upon, they would recite these surahs, and they would do Isal Sawab when they would go to the graveyard. And it's also effective for the people who are in the grave as well. By the barakat of this amal, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can lessen if any intensity they're feeling in their grave. All right. So all of this was about the gaze which has a harmful effect, the bad gaze. The muhaddiseen, the hadith scholars in the commentary of this hadith, al-ainu haqqun, they say that just like uh, there is an effect of a bad gaze, there is also another type of gaze which is a good gaze. The gaze of someone who looks with sincerity, with purity, with ikhlas, with love, with care, with mercy. So this gaze will have a positive impact on the person. Just like the opposite, when a person, they look at others with greed, with envy, jealousy, if that can have an effect, then someone who looks at someone with love and mercy and sincerity, then why wouldn't that gaze also have an effect? It does have an effect. It does have an effect. And this is also established from that same hadith, Al-Ainu Haqqun. Because the Prophet ﷺ did not say that the bad gaze, but rather said Al-Ain. Gaze is haqq. The gaze is truth. The gaze is true. So for this reason, we should also try to sit in such gatherings, the gatherings of the people of Allah, the Ahlullah, the awliya, the friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the ulama, the scholars. We come, we sit, we benefit from their advice, but also we benefit from their gaze. So coming back to the story, Sayyidina Yaqub alayhi salatu wassalam, he is using a worldly precaution. And he is advising his sons that La tadkhulu min babin wahid, that do not enter the city from the same gate, rather enter from different gates. وَعَلَيْهِ فَلْيَتَوَكَّلِ الْمُتَوَكِّلُونَ. This is another important phrase of the Quran, that all those who trust should trust in Him alone. That anyone who trusts anyone, they should trust in Him alone. وَعَلَيْهِ, upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should one place their trust. So it teaches us that you make use of worldly means to protect yourself, but your gaze should be upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You make use of precaution because we are in the dunya. Dunya is darul asbab, a place of means. So we make use of means. But our gaze is upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is what Sayyidina Yaqub alayhi salatu wasalam is saying here, that I place my trust in Allah and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. This trust in Allah, which is called tawakkul, is a very big blessing. Very big blessing. And if a person can develop and inculcate this quality, then they can rid themselves of many worries and anxieties and even depression that they might be afflicted with. In Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that people of tawakkul, they are the beloveds of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inna Allah yuhibbul mutawakkilin. And also that those who place their trust upon Allah, then وَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ, Allah will suffice for them. وَمَنْ يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ, that whoever places their trust upon Allah, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will suffice for them. Tawakkul, the haqiqat and the reality of tawakkul is as follows. It doesn't mean that you leave the worldly asbab. Some people have this misconception. They think that tawakkul means that you don't do anything, put your hand on hand, and then Allah Ta'ala will do everything for you. That's a misconception. Rather, tawakkul means that you make use of whatever worldly means are available to you. You exert your utmost. And then at the time of the result, you leave the outcome of that effort in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You leave the outcome or the result of that effort in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is called tawakkul. So for example, a person wants to get good grades in their class. So they make every effort, they come to class, give the assignments, give the exam, do the readings, and then they place their trust in Allah, that Ya Allah, I did whatever I could. Now Allah, I ask you that you do whatever you can for me. Allah, assist me. Allah, grant me success. So tawakkul does not mean tarki asbab, that you leave the means. The Prophet ﷺ said that tie the camel and then trust Allah Ta'ala. And the second misconception that some people may have about tawakkul is that sometimes people think that when we speak about means, the means to attain something, means to do well in your class, means to do well at work. So normally we're thinking only about the worldly means. So, for example, the student would think that I need to attend classes and write the exam if I want to succeed in my class. Uh, in fact, there is a second level of asbab, which are the dini asbab, which are certain means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed in our deen. For example, in Quran, Allah says that whoever adopts taqwa, then we will give them rizq from where they won't even expect. Allah will give provision, abundant provision, will give barakah in that provision. Similarly, those who have iman and do righteous deeds, Allah says that we will give them hayat tayyiba, a pure life, a beautiful life. Similarly, making dua to Allah Ta'ala. So these are a'mal, these are actions. Basically, it means that a person, if they live according to the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, abstain from sin, adopt taqwa, and they try to excel in doing righteous deeds, salah, tilawa, ibadah, dua, zikr, then these are also means by which one can attract the help and the assistance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are also a whole different set of asbab that we are supposed to make use of. Not just limit ourselves to worldly asbab, but also make use of the asbab, the means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed in our deen as well. And then after exerting both these levels of asbab, then finally at the outcome, we do tawakkul, which is that we place our trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Ya Allah, I did whatever I could do. I made use of all the worldly asbab that you gave to me, that were available, accessible to me. And Allah, I also tried to do the dini asbab. And now, Ya Allah, I ask you that I submit the matter before you. I put my trust in you. And then after putting your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one should be content in their heart. Just imagine like a person who writes the application and then submits the application to the king of the kings. My task was only to write and submit the application. I have done my job. So just like that, a person should feel content, relaxed, calm, that I did whatever I could do. There's nothing more that I can do. We cannot bring about the results. We can only put in the effort. The results are in the hands of Allah Ta'ala. The outcome is in the hands of Allah Ta'ala. So after doing what we could, we just need to then have trust upon Allah. Instead of again complaining or being restless or having anxiety, anxious, or having second thoughts, these are things which are inappropriate. These are things which are disliked. Once we place our trust in Allah, then one should be content and relaxed that inshallah the outcome will be whatever the outcome is, it will be for my best. It will be that which is best for me. وَعَلَيْهِ فَلْيَتَوَكَّلِ الْمُتَوَكِّلُونَ. And perhaps the greatest benefit of tawakkul, like we said, is that we get the belovedness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is a quality that we should try to inculcate. In fact, there is another hadith which mentions about a story about a Sahabi who passed away, and then someone saw him in a dream and asked him that what happened and share with us. And that Sahabi said that I don't have any regrets, but just this one thing, that I wish I had more tawakkul upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala while I was living. During my dunyavi life, I wish I had more tawakkul I wish I had more reliance upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this was a sunnah dua. It's a sunnah dua where the Prophet system taught us that when you make effort, after putting in the best effort, your best effort, then a person should make dua to Allah Ta'ala and say that, Ya Allah, hadha juhdi, Allah, this was my effort, wa alayhi tuklan, but Allah, my reliance is upon you. Allah, my my trust is upon you. I'm not trusting my own amal. I know my amal is weak, deficient. I'm not relying. Another word is reliance. Allah, my reliance is upon you, not on my amal. So this is something which is very beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And may Allah Ta'ala grant all of us the tawfiq that we can inculcate this attribute within us as well. Now, وَلَمَّا دَخَلُوا مِنْ حَيْثُ أَمَرَهُمْ أَبُوهُم. And when the brothers, they entered the city in the manner in which their father had commanded them. So now, say the brothers of Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam, they're returning back for a second time. So this will be now the start of the second meeting. And they followed the advice of their father and they entered the city. And now they've gone all the way up to Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salatu wassalam. ما كان يغني عنهم من الله من شيء إلا حاجة في نفس يعقوب قضاها. In Quran, Allah Ta'ala says here that Sayyidina Yaqub alayhi salatu wassalam could not help his children in any way against the will of Allah Ta'ala, but it was just an urge in the heart of Sayyidina Yaqub alayhi salam which he satisfied. And then Allah Ta'ala says, وَإِنَّهُ لَذُو عِلْمٍ. Sayyidina Yaqub alayhi salam was a man of knowledge. Lima allamna, because we had taught him. وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. But most of the people, they do not know. Now, when the brothers, they meet Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam for the second time, the story continues that وَلَمَّا دَخَلُوا عَلَى يُوسُف, when they came to Yusuf alayhi salam, awa ilayhi akhahu. Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam, he lodged his brother Binyamin with himself. Yani when they reached, Hazrat Yusuf alayhi salam was able to recognize his full brother. The others were either paternal brother or maternal brother. Binyamin was his full brother. They had the same mother. So he recognized him very easily. And the way he recognized him was he could tell the last time these 10 people came, but this one person is new. I didn't see him last time. So he must be Binyamin. So by looking at him, immediately he recognized that he is my full brother. And then when he got an opportunity, Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, he revealed to Binyamin that I am your full brother, I'm Yusuf. And this is the reason why your other brothers were a bit rough and tough with you. So I want you to stay with me. It's better. I prefer that you remain with me Now, as far as what strategy I would use, now this is interesting that he says that Qala inni ana akhuka, that look, I'm your brother. Fala tabta'is bima kanu ya'malun. So don't grieve for what they have been doing. They were treating him, they weren't treating him well. Even on the way, they were rough and tough with him. So Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam, he says that I want you to stay with me, and I will devise a strategy on my own in order for you to remain with me. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. Now, what was that strategy? So Binyamin also agreed. Okay, I will stay with you. I prefer to remain with you. So then Sayyidina Yusuf al-Islam, he devised a strategy, and that was as follows, that he had a measuring cup, and he placed his measuring cup, he asked someone to put that measuring cup in the provisions which were upon the camel of Binyamin, to hide that measuring cup in the stuff that was on the camel of Binyamin. And then when the caravan started moving and leaving, there was an announcer who called out and said that the measuring cup of the ruler is missing. The measuring cup of the ruler is missing. And whoever brings this measuring cup, the missing measuring cup, will get a reward from the ruler. So in the reply, they would say, so let's look at the ayat of the Quran. فَلَمَّا جَهَّذَهُمْ بِجَهَادِهِمْ. Later, when Sayyidina Yusuf al-Islam equipped them with their provisions, and each person had their own camel, and the provisions were loaded on the camel. جَعَلَ السِّقَايَةَ فِي رَحْلِ أَخِيهِ. He placed the bowl or the measuring cup in the camel pack of his brother. And then when the caravan started moving, the camels started leaving. ثُمَّ أَذَّنَ مُؤَذِّنٌ. There was an announcer who made this shout, and this word azan, to announce. Ayyatuha al-'ir. That, O people of the caravan, innakum lasariqun. You are indeed thieves. You are indeed thieves. Qalu. Now the brothers, they replied, they turned towards them. وَأَقْبَلُوا عَلَيْهِمْ مَاذَا تَفْقِدُونَ. Turning towards them, and they said that, what are you missing? Qalu. So the people of Sayyidina Yusuf al-Islam, the guards, one could imagine, they said that nafqidu suwa al-maliki. We are missing the measuring bowl of the king. Waliman ja'a bihi. And whoever brings that missing bowl back, then himlu ba'irin. They should deserve a camel load of reward. I mean, they will get a camel load of provision. That would be the reward for anyone who brings back the missing cup. Wa ana bihi za'im. And I stand as surety for it. Now, in reply, the brothers, they said that, قالوا تالله, we swear by Allah, لقد علمتم ما جئنا لنفسد في الأرض وما كنا سارقين. We swear by Allah Ta'ala, that we do not come to make mischief and fasad on this land, nor are we thieves. So then the person, he further asked them that قالوا فما جزاؤه إن كنتم كاذبين, that what is the punishment if you're liars? What if we find the missing bowl in your camel? If you're lying, then what should be the punishment? And they said that قالوا جزاؤه من وجد في رحله فهو جزاؤه, that the one in whose bag it is found shall himself be the punishment. كذلك نجزي الظالمين, and this is how we punish the wrongdoers. Now look, فبدأ بأوعيتهم قبل وعاء أخيه. So the guards, they started with their bags, the other brothers, searching the bag before searching the bag of his brother, Binyamin. And when they searched the bag of Binyamin, then ثم استخرجها من وعاء أخيه, they recovered the bowl from the bag of his brother. Now here, why they started with the bags of the others was so that there is no suspicion that we had placed the bowl ourselves. And then later, when that bowl is found in the luggage of Binyamin, Allah Ta'ala says, كَذَلِكَ كِدْنَا لِيُوسُف. So this is how we planned for Yusuf alayhi salatu wassalam. Now, people who are very close to Allah Ta'ala, the Kamilin, Kamil, living lives of taqwa and Kamil Iman, then their actions are also by the will and the wish of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Their actions are also a manifestation of the wish of Allah Ta'ala. And for this reason, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is attributing the actions of Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam to his own. كَذَلِكَ كِدْنَا, that this is how we planned. Even though this act was done by Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam himself. SubhanAllah, this is the same thing that we see in the Sunnah of the Prophet as well. In Hadith Qudsi, rather, where Allah Ta'ala says that my servant, he does farais, and by doing farais, he draws close to me. And then after doing farais, he continues doing nawafil. And with nawafil, he continues to draw close to me. And he comes so close to me that eventually he reaches a maqam where I become his eyes by which he sees, and I become his ears by which he listens, and I become his tongue by which he speaks, and I become his hands by which he holds, and I become his feet by which he walks. So this is such a tremendous rank that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives to those people. And how does a person get this? By ibadah, by farais, and then trying to excel in nawafil as well. This is the barakah of nafil. The more and more nafil ibadah a person does, the more they're able to draw close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala until they reach such a maqam of closeness and nearness where Allah Ta'ala says that I become the eyes by which they see. That's why in the Quran Allah mentions about the Prophet ﷺ as well, that when the Prophet ﷺ threw sand into the eyes of the enemy during one of the battles, Allah says that it wasn't you who threw the sand, rather it was us who threw the sand. Yani Allah Ta'ala attributes the action of the Prophet ﷺ to his own self. It was the action of the Prophet ﷺ But Allah Ta'ala attributes it to His own self. There was us who threw the sand. كَذَلِكَ كِدْنَا لِيُوسُف. That this is how we planned for Yusuf alayhi salam. مَا كَانَ لِيَأْخُذَ أَخَاهُ فِي دِينِ الْمَلِكِ إِلَّا أَن يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ. And he had no right to take his brother according to the law of the king unless Allah so willed. Now here we need to discuss this strategy that Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam used. This strategy that he placed the measuring cup in the baggage of his brother. Why did he do this? The reason was that according to the law of the land, he could not hold back his brother. He could not take his brother and make him stay with him. However, according to the Shariat of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, and remember, this is the progeny of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam's son, Hazrat Ishaq alayhi salam, Sayyidina Ishaq alayhi salam's son, Sayyidina Yaqub alayhi salam, and now Sayyidina Yaqub alayhi salam's son, Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam. According to the Shariat of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, the punishment of a thief was that the owner could take the thief with him. Could say that this person has stole something, and the punishment will be that he will remain with me. I will not let him go. So for this reason, Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam, he used this strategy. In Arabic, there is a word for this kind of strategy, which is called hila. Hila. So he used this hila, and Binyamin, people thought that he was a thief. And when they found the measuring cup in his bag, then Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam was able to keep Binyamin with him, according to the Shariat of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, because this was the punishment. So here, this is the reason why Allah Ta'ala says that if we hadn't taught this to Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam, then he would not be able to take his brother with him. So from here we understand that if there is a rightful cause, then Sharia gives us permission to make hila, to use such a strategy as used by Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam. If there is a permissible goal, permissible objective, koi maslahat, some larger goal and objective, to attain that, one can devise such strategies. There is another word which is called Toria. Toria. This type of hila, which is being it's similar. Toria, what does Toria mean? Toria means that a person, he wants to save himself from some hardship, which is a noble cause. We want to put ourselves in some calamity or a test or some difficulty. So if a person with the intention that they want to save themselves from some undue hardship and difficulty, they say something which can be interpreted in two different ways. Zumani. They say something which has two meanings, that they intend one meaning, but the listener understands the second meaning from those words. Yani, the person who's speaking, he's speaking the truth, but he's speaking it in such a way that the other person takes the second meaning from those words. Sharia calls this Toria, and this is permissible in the Sharia. So we'll perhaps understand this better if we have some examples before us. So let's start with Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. This is mentioned in this story of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, which we're about to do. This is mentioned in the Quran. When Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam was invited by his people to a function where people, it was like a festival that they would do outside the city, where they would engage in all types of indecencies. So Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, obviously being Hanif Fitrat, purity was in his fitra, he did not want to go. People were insistent that you should come with us. So in reply, he could not excuse, he could not lie. So what he said was, he said these words, Inni Saqim, that my tabiyat is not well. I'm not feeling well. Now, the listeners, people, they thought that maybe Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam is unwell. He is physically unwell. There is some disease, some sickness, maybe has a fever, headache. But Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, his intention while saying those words was that I'm spiritually unwell by what you are calling me towards. My tabiyat doesn't like those things that happens at that festival. That's why I'm unwell with regard to going to your festival. I don't want to go. So Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam used the word Saqim. Saqim. People thought that Saqim, by that he means physically unwell. But the intention of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam was that spiritually unwell. Yani, what you're calling me towards, these things make me spiritually unwell. And that's why I will not go. So this was the first instance. Then, to continue with that story, the people, they go back, they enjoy their festival. Meanwhile, what happens here is Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, he takes an axe and he goes and he destroys all the idols in their place of worship. In Quran, Allah mentions, فَجَعَلَهُمْ جُزَازًا إِلَّا كَبِيرًا. He destroys all the idols except for the biggest idol. And then he places the axe on the shoulder of the biggest idol and leaves. When the people come back and they see what happened to their idols, they ask that who did this? And when they approach Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam and the questioning starts, Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam replies and says that the idol which has the axe on it, ask that idol. Bal fa'alahu kabiruhum. The biggest one has done this. Now this story continues further. And now there is a second instance of Tawriya. Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, he leaves and he is now leaving with his wife, Hazrat Sarah radiallahu ta'ala anha. The ruler of that time was a tyrant, and he sent his police with instructions that wherever you find a beautiful woman who's traveling with her husband, so stop them and bring that woman to me, and I will take that woman for one night. Hazrat Sarah radiallahu ta'ala anha, Allah Ta'ala had given her a lot of beauty, husn, jamal. So when the police, they saw, they stopped them. And they started asking Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam that who is she? Now, if Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam had replied that she is my wife, then they would have taken Hazrat Sarah radiallahu ta'ala anha with them. So here in Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, in his reply, he said that she is ukhti, she is my sister. And his intention was that she's my sister in deen. She's my sister in deen. Like in Quran, Allah says, "Innamal mu'minuna ikhwa," that all the believers are brothers and sisters to one another. So on the basis of that iman, she was like the sister of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. She also believed in Allah Ta'ala, believed in Tawheed. She did not, was away from shirk. So she was a sister in iman. This was the intention. But the police, they understood that maybe they're brothers and sisters. So then they let Hazrat Sarah radiallahu ta'ala go. So in all of these stories, we see that Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, his intention, what he said a statement. His intention was something, but people understood it differently. Now, to give one example from the time of the Prophet, just to show that this is not just an amal of the previous Sharia, previous Ummah, but this was something that was done by the Sahaba in the presence of the Prophet as well. And the Prophet approved of this practice. When Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala was traveling with the Prophet on the journey of Hijrah from Makkah Mukarramah to Madinah Tayyibah. So en route, they met a person who was actually after the Prophet because it was a booty reward that was announced, but he didn't recognize the Prophet for who he was. So he asked Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala an, that who is this person who's traveling with you? Who is this person who's traveling with you? Now, if Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala an had revealed the true identity of the Prophet sallallahu, then that person would have tried to harm the Prophet sallallahu, or he would have tried to inform the Quraysh Makkah. So at this time, in reply to this question, that who is this person, Sayyidina Siddiq Akbar radiallahu ta'ala an, he gave a very beautiful and a very, what you call, a very tarihi reply, very historical reply, an epic reply. He said that Hadha Rajulun Yahdini as-Sabil, that this is that person who shows me the way. Who shows me the way. Now that unbeliever thought that he's like a travel guide, shows me the way. Whereas the intention of Sayyidina Siddiq Akbar radiallahu ta'ala an was that this is that individual, that person who shows me the way towards Allah Ta'ala, who guides me on this path towards Allah. Allahu Akbar. So such a beautiful statement, said something, meaning intention was one thing, but the person took the other interpretation. And they were able to save themselves from that trial, from that difficulty that could have happened. Now, this tradition has continued up till now as well. And famously, in the recent past, when in South Asia, we had the British rule. So there were some ulama who were trying to resist, trying to fight for independence. And one of them was Hazrat Maulana Qasim Nanotwi Rahmatullah alayh. And it's mentioned about him that when the Brits, they came to his, they had issued the order that he should be hanged. Wherever he is found, he should be hanged. So at that time, Hazrat Nanotwi Rahmatullah alayh was standing in the masjid, and suddenly the police came. They reached the masjid, they came to him. And one police officer, he went ahead and approached him and said that, where is Qasim? They didn't know how he looked like. So they asked him that, where is Qasim? And Hazrat Qasim Nanotwi Rahmatullah alayh, he just took 3 steps back 2 or 3 steps back, and he said that he was just here somewhere. He was here. He was right here. And then the police, they started looking here and there. And Hazrat Nanotwi Rahmatullah alayh, he left that masjid. So Toria, these are all examples of Toria. Toria is also a type of a hila. It's a type of a strategy. The only difference between Toria and hila is that Toria has to do with your statement, qaul, something that you say, which is zu ma'ani, which can have two meanings. Whereas hila is a action that you do, an act, an amal, a deed. So Sharia has given permission for both Toria and hila. And the reason is that the deen of Islam, now this is a more philosophical, that the deen of Islam is not just for 1400 years ago. Deen of Islam is for 1400 years ago, up and running all the way till the very last day, till Yawm al-Qiyamah. All time periods, all societies, all places, all situations, the deen of Islam needs to be practicable. It's not just a theoretical deen, it's a deen which has to be practiced, which has to be lived, and which has to remain practicable till the very end, no matter what time period, no matter what society, no matter what place. So sometimes certain needs can arise while living in a society where one may need to make use of such hila or toria, such strategies. Imam Muhammad Rahmatullah alayhi was a very big jurist. He has written a whole kitab, a whole book on this topic, which is titled Kitabul Hiyal, the book of strategies. So up till now, we gave you some examples of Toria. Now, let me give another example, some examples of Hila. Hila, remember, are actions, deeds. This is a Hila, example of Hila in the Quran. Hazrat Ayub alayhi salam. Hazrat Ayub alayhi salam, when he became sick, during his sickness, his wife, she would attend to him, attend to his needs, and she did a lot of khidmat. She fulfilled the right of khidmat of her husband. Once she made a slip, and Hazrat Ayub alayhi salatu wasalam, he took an oath, and later on, he felt that if I break my oath, then we can live together as husband and wife. But if I stand firm on my oath, then we can no longer live as husband and wife. So it was either, now he was thinking that I could either save my husband wife relationship or I could save my oath. It seemed as if one of the two could be saved. What should I save? The husband wife relationship or my oath? So at that time, he had said that, use these words, that I will lash you 100 times. Now, how he said those words? Now, how can one lash someone 100 times? So in the Quran, Allah Ta'ala mentions about this episode that khuz biyadik zighsan fadrib bihi wala tahnas. Yani Allah Ta'ala's rahmat came, and in Quran Allah Ta'ala says that what you should do is that you should take 100 sticks, wooden sticks, and make them, tie them together, and then strike your wife with just one time with that, and in this way you will be able to fulfill your qasam, and the other person will not be able to feel any pain as well. So this is an ayat of the Quran in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself is teaching a way to come out of this difficult situation by using a hila. That instead of striking 100 times, just gather wooden sticks, 100 wooden sticks, and then touch the other person with it. And just like that, here in this story, Hazrat Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam also made use of hila. He wanted his brother to stay with him. He wanted to save his brother Binyamin from what the other brothers were doing to him. So he devised this strategy where he placed the cup, and now in this way he was able to take Binyamin. So this hila was also 100% permissible. Here, there is one other point that we should remember, that as long as the goal is permissible, for that one can make use of a permissible strategy, a hila. But if the intention is to break the command of Allah, break the hukum of Allah, or twist the hukum of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and for that one is making use of a hila, then that is forbidden, prohibited in our deen. So, for example, a person travels with this intention that it's the month of Ramadan is coming, and in the Mubarak month of Ramadan, we'll have to keep fast. But the musafir, a traveler, is given some dispensation that they cannot, that if they want, they cannot fast in those days. So he spends the entire month of Ramadan just traveling with this intention that I don't want to fast. So this is a hila which is not okay. Or let's say another hila, that he has to give zakat on his money, and then before the year ends, on the last day, he transfers that money in the name of his wife so that he doesn't need to pay zakat. This is also impermissible. To the Bani Israel, Allah Ta'ala had said that you should not do fishing on Saturday. This was the hukum of Allah Ta'ala, not to fish on Saturday. But they devised a hila that they would put the net in the water. They would put their nets in the water on Saturday, and then they would pick the fishes up on Sunday. So they were trying to twist the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They used this strategy, this hila for that. This hila was not permissible. And that's why Allah then sent a punishment upon them. So we should understand the basic point here, that to save ourselves from haram or to do something which is permissible, For that, if he devised some hila, some toria, some strategy, when there is a need, then that is a jaiz, a permissible hila can be done. But if our niyat is to do something which is impermissible, to break the command of Allah, twist the command of Allah, play with the command of Allah, and we are devising some strategy for that, then that hila will be impermissible. There's a story which is mentioned about hila that there was a man who was at the shop, and there was a woman who was outside the shop and she was crying. And someone asked her, the man came and asked her that, why are you crying? And she said that I don't have anyone, I don't have a house, I'm so far away from my home, and it's almost night time. I'm thinking that where should I go? Where would I go? I don't know anyone here in the city. So the man said that, why don't you come to my home? And she said, okay. And then the man started talking to her, and while talking, asked her that, are you married? And she said that no. So then the man thought that maybe I could marry her. So he proposed to her. And she said that, okay, fine, I will get married to you. So they called the Qazi, called the witnesses, and then in this way they got married. And then after this, that woman stayed in that house for 3 days. After 3 days, there were some relatives of the woman who came, and they came inquiring about that woman. And they came to this house and then asked her that, where were you for these last 3 days, for the past 3 days? Where were you? Now come with us. Let's go home. So the husband asked her that what happened. And she said that all of these people are my relatives and they're saying that I should leave you and go with them. And if I go with them, they will not allow me to come back to you. So you should do something so that I don't go with them. Stop them from taking me. So he said that, what should I do? How can I stop them from taking you away? So the woman, she replied and said that if you say these words, that if you step out of my house, I will give you talaq, I will divorce you, then my relatives, they will be scared and they won't say anything to me. They won't take me away from you. So the husband, he said that if you leave my house, I will divorce you. You were divorced. So when the relatives, they heard, they said, okay, if that's the case, then you can stay here. We'll go back. They went away. Now the husband was very happy. Now that she will remain with him. So then after some time, the husband went back to the shop. And when he came back in the evening, the house was empty. She wasn't there. And her stuff, her luggage, everything was gone. So he inquired and he asked that what happened. And then at that time, he realized that actually that woman, she had a husband, first husband, and her first husband had divorced her. And now she wanted that through some hila, she could marry him again. So she devised this hila that I would do nikah with the second man. And then she taught this strategy that you can give me talaq. And then she left the house so that she got the talaq. And then when the talaq was established, she came back to her first husband. So this is also what happens sometimes. So here in this ayat, the hila that Sayyidina Yusuf ﷺ did was 100% permissible. Allah Ta'ala himself placed this hila in the mind of Sayyidina Yusuf ﷺ, and this is something that was permissible, that you can do this. You can take your brother with you according to the Shariat of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. نرفع درجات من نشاء. We elevate in ranks whomsoever we will. وفوق كل ذي علم عليم. And above every man of knowledge, there is someone who is more knowledgeable. Let's, inshallah, you'll keep it till here. Inshallah, we'll carry on next time. May Allah Ta'ala give us the tawfiq that we can live by the teachings of our deen. May Allah Ta'ala accept this from all of us. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. جزاكم الله خيرا كثيرا شيخ سامي.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. جزاكم الله خير.